Redemption, the series itself, it's literally it's a story of that word. Each one of the characters that we meet in the series, they all have something. Something is either going on in their lives that they'll all have to fight through. They'll all have to fall back on their own strengths and their faith to make it. And that's, to me, the entire purpose of the show is you're watching these characters grow, and you as the audience will grow along with them. They'll introduce you to topics you probably have never even had to deal with in a cartoon show before. And by the end of it, you know, when they get their cathartic release, so will you as the audience. That's the point. The point is to take you from point A to point B and make you feel like these characters are hanging out next door and you want to join. Everything is given to me from the script, from Rosario himself and his brother, and my job is literally to take their words and create the images. What they see in their heads, it's my job to make sure that the audience sees it. And sometimes it can be pretty tough, but it's definitely rewarding when you find that perfect mix. For the character designs, a lot of those ideas, they come from references. All of us on the team. The great thing about the core team that we have is we're all nerds. Just flat out, we're all dorks, nerds, whatever you want to call us. We know the ins and outs of all the pop culture comic book references, so we'll be talking about a certain character and we'll go, oh, that's like this guy from this issue or this guy from that show, and we'll go, yeah. And the ideas coalesce from those conversations. We'll kick it back and forth, and by the time we're done, we've taken all the ideas that we'd like to see for that one character, and there he is, or there she is. As the Trinity goes, the three friends, Carver's always been my favorite. He was the hardest one to nail down, simply because his character is so jovial. To put a spin on him, he's kind of like the Will Smith of the group. But he's the linchpin. He anchors the entire group together. Without Carver, Jonah and Maria would probably have succumbed to whatever ails them long before that. Out of the three, as cool and as powerful as Jonah is, and as sweet and as innocent and as wholly good as Maria is, Carver's there. So from an animation perspective, you know, when you're drawing these characters, they'll feed off of Carver's energy. When he's in frame and we're animating him, he's going to have life. He has to. And the other characters have to feed off of that. Jonah's a little bit more melancholy. He's a little bit more overconfident sometimes in his own abilities. That's something he'll have to deal with as the series progresses. But, you know, Jonah himself, he leans on Carver heavily. And they may joke around a lot, but, you know, in the scenes where he and Carver are there's always those side glances to Carver waiting for some sort of approval, some sort of tap on the shoulder. And that's something we're going to try very hard to make sure that the people know through the animation. Yeah, well, you know what? We're going to use Redemption himself for that one, or Dee Dee, one of the other characters. She's the full Monty. She's been completely animated for one scene, so we'll use her. She's a good example. She was the first one that I did when I got onto the series, and she just naturally came out. Pen to paper, you know, pencil to paper. She came through, and taking her from that to fully rendered 6 seconds of glorious animation, it was tough. That's where animation really has to be done correctly. It's one thing to be able to illustrate the characters. Once you get that final approved form down, you know, whether it's the nose is just right or the chin isn't as pointy enough, it's back to being a normal chin size. Once those are taken care of and you have that fully rendered, fully colored form, you have to make the character move, and that's weight distribution. You have to make sure that character is going to flow naturally from one pose to the next. No, what drew me to Redemption, first of all, is I've always loved animation. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I want to work for Disney at some point in my life. That's been my goal for I don't know how many years now. And when I first found out about Redemption, I was actually a little reluctant at first to get involved with it. I wasn't quite sure if I'd be good enough. I didn't know quite sure if I would fit into the project, but after talking with the boss, he definitely made it seem worth my while. And the characters itself, the setting, the fact that it's a show about good triumphing over evil, but not in the way most people see it. It's realistic. It tackles real world issues. It tackles stuff that I've dealt with in my life that I've never seen in another show, and still good triumphs. So it definitely, the story, the characters, everything, by the time I was knee deep in it, I didn't realize how engrossed I'd become. The easiest way, and I hate to drop names while we're doing interviews, but it's the easiest way I've gotten people even casually interested in it is I ask them first if they've ever heard of Spawn. And a lot of people know, you know, the story of Spawn, and I won't get into that here. And they go, yeah, I have. And I look at them like, well, imagine that in reverse. And they go, what do you mean imagine it in reverse? Like, imagine the flip of that. Imagine if God had his champion on earth, his ultimate fighting force, but he's not wholly good. There's some interesting things about him, and he's gonna have to learn how to deal with the fact that he has the power of the Almighty backing him. What would you do? And a lot of people, when they hear it explained that way, they kind of, I don't know if they click back in their minds to the mid-90s when that was a popular theme in most comic books, or television shows for that matter, and suddenly they're on board. They're like, yeah, it actually sounds really cool. And Redemption fits pretty much everything I've ever heard from fans wanting to see. As a matter of fact, yes. For me, the most fulfilling thing to me being a part of this series is it's actually re-energized my own faith. I went through a long battle where I didn't know what I believed in, what was, you know, the best course of action. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but that wasn't doing it for me. But when I started working on the show and I started reading the scripts and digging into the characters and stuff, I started, I don't know, something clicked, something turned on. And it feels good. I'm not gonna lie, the show really does actually make you feel good. The more you work with it, the more you learn about the characters, the more you know, for us reading the scripts and knowing what it's going to look like, it just feels good. And I can't say there's a lot of shows out there that do that actually have that strong of a pull. Especially coming from, you know, being a little bit in touch with the darker side of life, having this out there and being able to say that I helped put it out there, it's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling. So it's definitely changed.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading the script. I think he's gaining more of a status and trust in Exodus. I feel like he's wants to do his own thing and not be the lackey.
He has chosen his instrument.